So in my last video, I talked about Xbox Game Pass, the value proposition, and how it was the best thing Microsoft has done for the brand of Xbox. So I would like to keep the positivity going, and I'm going to say what the best thing about the PlayStation 5, and that is the DualSense Controller. Yes, it is well documented that Sony has arguably the best first-party lineup when it comes to the competition, especially in single-player narrative-driven games, aka movie games. But aside from that, the best thing about the PlayStation 5 hardware isn't the console itself. Even though I do think the console is a good console, I think it has good specs, I will still argue that the Xbox Series X console is the superior console, at least on paper. Yes, I know people will bring up things like comparables from games in terms of performance, but let's be real here. It has been well documented that the Xbox Series X dev kits came out late, and it's too early to tell for sure which one would perform better. But in terms of on paper, the Series X is the superior console. But that's not what Sony's going for. Sony is doing a bit of a hybrid approach by providing a console that has power capable of playing all the modern games with a comparable performance level to their competition. What Sony's offering is an enhanced user experience. I stated previously in this video how they are the best movie games, single-player, narrative-driven games. Well, what Sony has done with the DualSense controller, with its haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, is essentially added a D-Box form to their experience. So when you go to the movie theater and you pick out your favorite movie and you have the option for 3D and D-Box, right? None of those things in a movie theater will make or break a film. If a film is bad, it's bad. If a film is good, it's good. The seat doesn't do anything to change that. But what it does do is it will enhance the existing experience. As I make this video, I came out of Top Gun and I did pay for the D-Box. And because that movie was specifically built to use the D-Box experience, it was a much better experience than the people who I sat with who didn't have the D-Box seats. Yeah, the film is the same, but my experience just had that icing on the already fabulous cake. That's what the DualSense controller is. A lot of people sit there and say that the DualSense controller is a gimmick with its features. And I greatly disagree with that statement. I think it all depends on how effective any given title utilizes the DualSense controller. Much like a D-Box experience, you could go to a movie, or in this case, you could buy a game that tacked on the features just because they did, and it comes off as a gimmick. Most of the games that are deemed using the controller as a gimmick are games that are third party. Games that are just added on last minute, nothing special. When I think of games like that, I think of the third party library, the third party games that kind of threw them in, and they're nothing more than a gimmick. You barely even notice them. But the games that truly utilize the DualSense controller, majority of them are first-party titles, as you would expect. But there are a handful of third-party titles that do use the DualSense controller, very surprisingly. I remember in my review of Control Ultimate Edition, I was surprised at how well they use the controller, because every step your character takes feels differently depending on the surface you're stepping on. Even the adaptive triggers on how it's used with the gun felt different. Anyone who has played Returnal or Astro's Playroom, Ratchet and Clank, these games are the standout showcases for the DualSense controller. They really enhance the experience. I talked about in my Call of Duty Cold War review how that game surprised me with how well it used the DualSense controller, because you would get shot from angles and the controller would vibrate appropriately, effectively giving you a tactical advantage in multiplayer. These are the kinds of things that when they are used properly, the controller is the shining star. Now, I get that not everybody is going to like the features of these controllers. It will always be that way. Some people don't like the D-Box experience no matter how much it is used or how well it is used. They just don't care. It is something very similar to that with a DualSense controller. Some people, no matter what you do, they will not jive with the experience. But if you do, it does enhance the experience, and it's more than just a gimmick. It will increase the level of immersion that can't be achieved on other platforms because they don't have a controller to do that. And anyone who says it's a gimmick, if you haven't used the controller, you do not get an opinion on the matter. The only people who can tell me that it is a gimmick are those who actively play on PlayStation 5 and have at least sampled a wide range of titles that have said to accentuate the controller features, and titles that are just have the features there just added on. So if someone tells me that it's a gimmick and they finished Returnal, okay, that's your opinion and I respect it. If someone hasn't touched the controller at all and they're saying it, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just whistling Dixie out of your ass and your opinion is invalid to me. In saying that, the best feature of the PlayStation 5 is this controller. It is the best controller to ever ship with any console, period. But that's just my opinion, and it is an opinion that is shared by many who own a PlayStation 5. Without saying that, I hope Microsoft takes cues from this and adds their own version of the controller to the Xbox family, because I think a lot of people would appreciate that and take full value for what the controller brings to the table. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.